One gold ring, size 7, inscribed, "Forever yours." But it wasn't my husband's. They say the smallest things can destroy a perfect life: a lipstick stain, a forgotten receipt, a text message sent at 2 a.m. For me, it was a ring that didn't belong, a tiny circle of gold that shattered a family's foundation and exposed 12 years of lies. I'm Rachel Walker, and I need to tell you about the day I discovered my husband's perfect lie. But first, you need to understand what was lost. Most people think affairs begin with grand gestures or obvious signs. They don't. They begin in the quiet moments, in the small choices, in the tiny betrayals that seem insignificant until they aren't. My story began in a sock drawer on a Saturday morning in March, but really it started long before that. Let me take you back to the beginning, not to the moment I found the ring, we'll get there soon enough, but to the day I met Thomas Walker, MD. It was 2010, during my final rotation as a nursing student at Boston General. I was 24, idealistic, determined to make a difference. Tom was a second-year cardiology resident, already turning heads with his brilliant diagnoses and steady hands. I remember the first time I saw him in action. It was a Tuesday morning, 3 a.m., a code blue in the cardiac unit. Patient crashing, stats dropping. Most residents would have panicked, but not Tom. He worked with this calm certainty, this unwavering focus. When it was over, when the patient was stable, he didn't brag or boast. Instead, he spent an hour with the patient's terrified wife, explaining everything in terms she could understand, making her feel less alone. That was Tom, or at least, that's who I thought he was. The good guy, the hero, the man who would never hurt anyone. Our first real conversation happened 2 weeks later. I was checking on his patients during night shift, and he was reviewing charts. We talked until sunrise, about medicine, about dreams, about life. He told me about growing up in a small town in Massachusetts, about watching his father die of a heart attack when he was 12. That's why I became a cardiologist, he said. I wanted to save other families from that pain. We married 2 years later, in September 2012. The perfect autumn wedding in Boston Commons. Leaves just starting to turn golden. I can still picture every detail. My father's tears as he walked me down the aisle. My mother's proud smile, Tom's hands trembling as he recited his vows. "This is forever," he whispered during our first dance to At Last by Etta James. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was Thomas Walker, rising star of cardiology, the man everyone said would be chief of medicine before he turned 40. The early years were a blur of happiness and milestones. Sarah came first, in 2014. I had complications during delivery, severe preeclampsia. Tom never left my side, not once in 36 hours. When they finally placed her in his arms, he cried harder than I did. "She's perfect," he kept saying, just like her mother. Jack followed in 2016, born during the worst snowstorm Boston had seen in decades. We couldn't make it to the hospital. Tom had to deliver him himself in our bedroom. I remember the look of absolute focus on his face, the same look he got during difficult surgeries. Afterward, he joked that Jack was determined to prove his father still remembered his obstetrics rotation. Then came Emma in 2019, our surprise baby. The pregnancy test showed positive the day Tom was appointed chief of cardiology. "Best day of my life," he said, hugging me and spinning me around in our kitchen. Emma had him wrapped around her finger from the moment she was born. He painted her nursery himself, spent weeks getting the perfect shade of pink. Every night, no matter how tired he was, he'd rock her to sleep singing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." We were the family everyone envied. The perfect doctor's wife with her perfect children and her perfect life. We lived in a beautiful colonial in Brookline, hosted dinner parties for the hospital board, took wonderful vacations. The children excelled in school, played sports, took music lessons. We had a cleaning service, a landscaper, college funds, and all the trappings of upper middle class success. If I noticed changes, I dismissed them. Tom working later hours? He was saving lives. More conferences than before? It was good for his career. Missed dinners and bedtimes. The price of being married to a prestigious doctor? When he started taking more calls at night, stepping outside to answer his phone, I told myself it was just patient confidentiality. When he began password protecting his laptop, I assumed it was hospital policy. I learned later that the first lie came in December 2023 at the hospital's annual Christmas party. That's where he met her, Jessica Chen. 29 years old, newly hired pharmaceutical representative with a degree from Berkeley and ambitions that went far beyond selling heart medications. I was home that night with Emma, who had strep throat. Tom called to say he'd be late. A patient coding needed his attention. I believed him, just like I believed every excuse that would follow. Looking back, there were signs, little things that seemed innocent at the time, but now feel like neon warnings I chose to ignore. New cologne I didn't recognize, extra changes of clothes in his office, gym membership he rarely used, business dinners that ran mysteriously late, text messages he'd quickly delete, fresh dress shirts in his car, weekend conferences that seemed unnecessary, private phone calls in the garage, a sudden interest in his appearance, password changes on his devices, cash withdrawals from unknown ATMs, unexplained credit card charges, late-night emergency calls, the way he stopped looking me in the eye, but I trusted him completely. Why wouldn't I? He was Tom, my Tom, the man who held my hand through 3 deliveries, the father who never missed a dance recital or baseball game until recently, the husband who still brought me coffee in bed every Sunday morning, the doctor who saved lives, the mentor who taught residents, the man everyone respected. That trust would prove to be my blindness. Because while I was believing in our perfect life, Tom was building another one entirely. One that would be revealed by a single gold ring, size 7, with an inscription that would shatter everything. Forever yours, T. March 16th, 2024. A Saturday morning, like any other. That's the thing about life-changing moments. They don't announce themselves. They slip in quietly, disguised as ordinary days. Tom was downstairs making his famous chocolate chip pancakes, a tradition that started when Emma was 3. She'd been sick with the flu, refusing to eat anything. Tom spent the whole morning creating pancake animals, making her laugh with silly voices for each one. Now, at 7, she still insisted on pancake Saturdays. It was their special time together. I could hear them from upstairs, Emma's giggles as she stole chocolate chips, Tom's deep laugh as he pretended not to notice. Jack was in the backyard, practicing his baseball swing. He had tryouts for varsity coming up. Even though he was only a freshman, Sarah was still asleep, typical for our teenager on weekends. I was in our walk-in closet, doing what wives do, the invisible work of maintaining a life. Tom had been complaining about losing socks, and I'd promised to organize his drawer. 12 years of marriage is 1,000 tiny moments like these, the small acts of care that build a life together, or tear it apart. The ring rolled out when I lifted a stack of dress socks. Just a gentle clink against the wooden drawer. Such a small sound for something that would destroy everything. At first, I barely noticed it. Tom often took his wedding band off before surgeries. Hospital policy about infection control. But this wasn't his platinum band, size 10, with our wedding date inscribed. This was delicate. Golden, size 7, obviously meant for a woman's hand. Forever yours, T. March 15th, 2024, yesterday. He'd given this ring to someone yesterday. Have you ever felt time stop? Not the poetic kind of stopping, the actual physical sensation of your world freezing in place? The sounds from downstairs faded. Emma's laughter, Tom's humming, the sizzle of pancakes on the griddle, all replaced by the roaring in my ears. I've been a nurse for 15 years. I know what shock feels like. The trembling hands, the tunnel vision, the way your mind tries to find rational explanations for what your heart already knows. But there's no rational explanation for finding another woman's ring in your husband's sock drawer. What happened next was almost mechanical, training kicking in perhaps, the same way I handle emergencies at the hospital. My laptop was in our bedroom. Tom's email password had always been Emma's birthday, 092816. How fitting that our youngest child's birth date would help expose her father's betrayal. The first email appeared 3 months ago, or at least that's what I thought then. I'd later learn the truth was much older. Subject: Missed you at the conference. From jessica.chen@healthcare.corp. To thomas.walker@healthcare.corp. The ring fits perfectly, just like us. Jessica Chen. Even now, months later, that name tastes like poison. A quick search told me everything didn't want to know. She was everything I wasn't. Young, ambitious, untethered. A pharmaceutical representative at Boston General. Started 6 months ago after relocating from California. 29 years old. Berkeley graduate. Instagram full of yoga poses and motivational quotes about taking what you want from life. I dove deeper into her social media presence. Her Twitter feed was full of medical conference updates, always managing to attend the same ones as Tom. Her LinkedIn showed a calculated progression, specifically requesting the Boston territory, moving across the country, positioning herself in the cardiology department. But it was her Instagram that told the real story, the one Tom had hidden. The Denver conference, January 2024. Group photos where they stood just a little too close. Late-night posts from the hotel bar. Room service for 2. Selfies with captions about fate and unexpected happiness. That familiar smile I thought was only mine. The more I dug, the more I found. Our joint credit card statements revealed a pattern. Dinner at Le Cristal, $342. Hotel bar charges until 2 a.m. A jewelry store purchase, $2,850. Weekend conferences that never appeared in the hospital calendar. Car rentals in cities where Tom claimed to take the train. A second phone line I never knew existed. Each discovery was another crack in our perfect life. But the worst was yet to come. I found a hidden email account, secured with what would have been our anniversary in the year we met. Inside were hundreds of messages. Miss your smile already. Can't wait for Denver. Should have met you years ago. Forever isn't long enough. Counting the minutes until tomorrow. You make me feel alive again. Then came the photos. Hundreds of them, documenting the progression of their affair. Coffee meetings that looked innocent enough. Medical conferences where they always found each other. Private dinners in dark restaurants. Hotel lobbies in different cities. Weekend trips disguised as medical seminars. Even one at our favorite restaurant. The place where he'd proposed to me 12 years ago. The final blow was an email thread about a house. Not just any house. A Victorian in Brookline similar to the one I'd always dreamed of owning. The down payment had already been made. Move-in date, June 1st. There were messages about furniture, about paint colors, about where the nursery would go. He wasn't just having an affair, he was planning a whole new life while systematically destroying ours. I found their text messages, backed up to his cloud account. Jessica, when will you tell her? Tom, soon. I promise. Just need to figure out the kids. Jessica, I want to start our life together. Tom, you're my future. She's my past. Jessica, I can't wait to wear this ring openly. Tom, soon, baby. Forever yours. Their relationship had started at that Christmas party, the night I was home with Emma's strep throat. What began as innocent flirtation turned into coffee meetings, then lunches, then private dinners. By the Denver conference in January, they were fully involved. All while I was at home, trusting him, loving him, raising his children. The evidence mounted. Hotel receipts from cities where he claimed to be at medical conferences, dinner reservations for two at restaurants I'd never heard of, jewelry store purchases that never made it to my jewelry box, flight bookings for upcoming trips I knew nothing about, a separate credit card I never knew existed, plans for a future that didn't include his family. I was so engrossed in my discovery that I almost didn't hear his voice from downstairs. "The pancakes are getting cold," such a normal thing to say. Such a normal morning. Except nothing would ever be normal again. My voice shook as I called back, "Found something interesting in your drawer." The footsteps on the stairs, heavy, slow, like a man walking to his execution, each step echoing with the weight of his betrayal. I remember the last moment before he entered our bedroom. The final second of our marriage, where he was still just Tom, my husband, father of our children, the man I'd loved for 12 years. Once he stepped through that door, he'd become someone else entirely, a stranger wearing my husband's face. "Honey." I sat on our bed, the same bed where we'd conceived our children, where we'd shared our dreams, where he'd held me through 3 miscarriages before Sarah was born. The ring felt impossibly heavy in my palm. I held it up. The morning sun caught it, sending golden reflections across our bedroom wall. Watching his face crumble was like watching our entire marriage collapse in real time. "Who wears this ring, Tom?" The pancakes were burning downstairs. Emma started crying. She's always been sensitive to burnt smells, but in that moment, time stood still between us. "Rachel, please." "Jessica Chen." Each word was a bullet. "Size 7, gold band." March 15th. I met his eyes. On conference in Denver, or was that a lie too? His face aged 10 years in 10 seconds. "The kids," he whispered, "they'll hear." Like they heard you on the phone at midnight, those emergency patient calls? That's when the confession started. Not because he wanted to be honest, but because he had no choice. I already knew everything. His emails, his credit card statements, the house in Brookline, the plans for a future with her. "It wasn't supposed to happen," he started, the classic line, every cheater's favorite defense. What wasn't supposed to happen, Tom? Meeting her, sleeping with her, buying her a ring, planning a life with her? Which part was the accident? He sat heavily on our reading chair, my grandmother's antique, where I used to nurse our babies. "The Christmas party," he said quietly. "That's when it started." "When I was home with Emma's strep throat?" He flinched. "Good." She was different, young, excited about medicine in a way I hadn't felt in years. "She's 29, Tom. Of course she's young." It was just coffee at first, talking about cardiology research, new drug trials, then dinners, then Denver, he nodded. The conference changed everything. Being away from obligations. Just being Tom again, not doctor. Walker, not dad, not husband? My voice could have frozen hell. "Was that ring on your finger when you slept with her? Did you think of our children while you were planning your new life?" "Rachel." "No." I stood up, my anger finally breaking through the shock. "You don't get to Rachel me. Not while I'm holding another woman's ring. Not while our daughter is crying downstairs because you burned the pancakes during your confession." His phone buzzed. New message. "Missing you already." His face went white. Caught again. I laughed. A horrible broken sound. "She doesn't waste time, does she? Tell me, does Jessica know you still make pancakes for your family? Does she know about Emma's recital next week? Jack's baseball game? Sarah's college tours? Please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you managed to buy a house with her while paying our mortgage? How you justified loving our children while planning to abandon them? How you wore my ring while shopping for hers?" The truth poured out of him then. Every detail I didn't want but needed. to hear. How they met at hospital meetings. The accidental touches in elevators, coffee meetings that turned into dinners. Hotel rooms in different cities. Promises made while wearing my ring. Plans for their future together. Her desire for her own children. The house they'd chosen. The life they'd planned. But it was the small details that destroyed me. He'd taken her to our favorite restaurant. She knew about his peanut allergy. They had inside jokes about his quirks. She'd met some of his colleagues. They'd planned trips we'd talked about taking. He'd told her about our fertility struggles. She knew our children's names. "Does she make you happy?" I asked finally, my voice empty. "Rachel, it's a simple question, Tom. Does she make you happy?" "Yes." The word fell between us like a bomb. I nodded slowly. "Then pack your bags. The children shouldn't see this. The kids will know their father chose another woman's ring over their childhood. Please, we can talk about this. Like you talked to me about buying her a house, about planning a new family with her, about destroying our children's lives." More confessions followed, more betrayals unveiled, secret bank accounts, hidden credit cards, planned vacations, a life insurance policy with her as beneficiary, retirement accounts I knew nothing about, a consultation with a divorce attorney 3 months ago. Each revelation was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. But the worst was yet to come, telling the children. How do you tell 3 children their father is leaving? How do you watch their world shatter and know you can't fix it? Each child reacted differently. Emma, our youngest, didn't understand. 7 years old and still believing in fairy tales, she kept asking when Daddy would come home to make pancakes again. For weeks after, she'd wake up every Saturday morning expecting to find him in the kitchen. The disappointment in her eyes grew smaller each time, but it never completely disappeared. Jack, at 13, was old enough to understand, but too young to process it properly. He punched his bedroom wall when we told him, breaking 2 fingers. The same fingers Tom had set and bandaged countless times after baseball accidents. He quit the team the next day. "Dad's not coming to games anyway," he said. The trophies that once filled his room now sit in boxes in the garage. But it was Sarah, our 15-year-old, whose reaction hurt the most. She just went silent. Deleted every photo with her father from her phone. Removed him from her social media. Changed her last name on Instagram to mine. When he tried to explain during their daddy-daughter dinner, for a tradition since she was 5, she stood up in the middle of the restaurant and said, "I don't have a father anymore." She hasn't spoken to him since. The aftermath was like a tornado tearing through our lives. Tom moved out that night, taking only a suitcase, and his guilt. The hospital erupted in gossip. The respected Dr. Walker and his young pharmaceutical rep. Friends took sides. Family members called constantly. Lawyers were contacted. Bank accounts were frozen. Passwords were changed. Lives were divided. The real pain came in the quiet moments. Emma crying at bedtime because Daddy wasn't there to read her story. Jack refusing to watch baseball on TV. Sarah having panic attacks before school. The empty chair at dinner. The unused coffee mug in the cabinet. The silence where laughter used to be. Saturday mornings without pancakes. Family photos we couldn't look at. Holiday plans we had to cancel. Dreams we had to reshape. The divorce proceedings revealed even more betrayals. Credit cards I never knew about. Bank accounts in other states. Investment properties under his business name. A life insurance policy with Jessica as beneficiary. Retirement accounts I'd never seen. A prenuptial agreement with Jessica, dated before I found the ring. Plans for a future that had been in motion for months. Jessica moved in with him a month later. She wears the ring now, his new promise of forever. She's 29, wants her own children, posts happy couple photos on Instagram. She got my husband, a new house, a promised future, a fresh start. But here's what he lost: Emma's gap-toothed smile at bedtime, Jack's baseball games, Sarah's dance recitals, Sunday family dinners, Christmas morning chaos, birthday celebrations, school performances, family vacations, trust fund discussions, college planning sessions, the 1,000 little moments that make up a life. The healing comes slowly. First, genuine laugh. 2 months after, first peaceful sleep. 3 months. First Saturday without crying. 4 months. First family dinner without his empty chair. 5 months. First holiday planning without him. 6 months. First day without thinking of them, still waiting. But here's what I learned. Forever isn't in gold bands or inscriptions. It's in Saturday morning pancakes, bedtime stories, baseball games, dance recitals, little moments that make up a life. Moments he traded for a size 7 ring. Sometimes I wonder if Jessica knows about the drawer, the discovery, the way truth spills out, how easily promises break, what it costs to steal a life, the pain she helped cause, the family she helped destroy. Last week, Emma asked why Daddy doesn't make pancakes anymore. I couldn't tell her about the ring, about Denver, about promises broken. So I just held her, remembering another woman's inscription, "Forever yours, T." To every woman wearing a ring, look closely at its shine. Sometimes, the brightest gold hides the darkest truths. Sometimes, forever is just another word for until something better comes along. The most painful part? They're happy. Tom and Jessica, their Instagram shows their perfect life. Tropical vacations, fancy restaurants, medical conferences, couple workouts, house renovations, future plans. Everything new and unspoiled by reality. But here's what their photos don't show. Emma's tears at bedtime, Jack's broken fingers, Sarah's panic attacks, the therapy sessions, the college funds in question, the broken promises, the shattered family, the cost of their happiness. This is Rachel Walker, and this was my story. But it's not just my story, is it? In homes across the world, similar scenes play out. Discoveries in sock drawers, messages on phones, lipstick on collars, rings that don't belong, families broken, lives shattered, truths revealed, forever redefined. If you're living this story right now, know you're not alone. The truth hurts, but lies destroy. Choose truth. Choose healing. Choose yourself. Remember, every truth has a price. Every secret leaves a trace. Every forever has an expiration date. And some promises are made to be broken. Look closely at your own gold bands, your own promises, your own forevers. Because sometimes the smallest things, a ring, a text, a receipt, can reveal the biggest lies. And sometimes, just sometimes, those...
If this dark truth shook you, there are more secrets waiting to be exposed. Hit subscribe and turn on all notifications now to join Dark Truth Archives, where secrets come to light. Share your thoughts in the comments below and let us know what truths you want uncovered next. New stories every week, because some secrets can't stay hidden forever. Dark Truth Archives, where every shadow holds a story.